One of my earliest memories of being trans and wanting to be a dancer are actually the same thing. I was watching an episode of Blue Peter and I remember seeing these dancers. I think they're English National Ballet dancers. And like many little ones there, I just wanted to be these girls. It was sort of like, oh, they're incredible. You know, they're so pretty and the costumes are amazing, obviously, and they're on point and everything. And I fell in love with ballet. And I remember turning to my mum and telling her I wanted to be a ballerina. And she just sort of softly laughed at me and said that boys aren't ballerinas. And that happens to be my earliest memory of sort of why do people think I'm a boy? But at school I was always more comfortable with the other girls. If you try to defy that gender norm in a playground, you get punished for it. So I learned that to express who I was at a very young age was wrong. Through this time my love of ballet never left. But when I was old enough to understand I wanted to be a dancer, at the same time society was telling me to be ashamed of who I was as a transgender person, I didn't want ballet to be just another prison of my perceived gender. It was important to me for ballet to be somewhere where I could be free to be who I am, not who the world expects me to be. It took me 33 years to find a teacher who was willing to teach me for who I am. You know, I look back and I sometimes wish I had more courage to be adamant with everybody who I was. But you could waste your whole life looking back. And I don't want to. I want to make the most of the time I've got and the opportunities ahead of me. Once I'd opened that sort of Pandora's box and accepted who I was as a person, I couldn't go back. I couldn't keep lying to myself. I tried, and I went to my GP and I got referred to the gender identity clinic, and I acutely remember that on our last session, she sort of said, well, if you do go down this path, you will lose your friends, your family, your job. No one will ever love you and you'll be neither male nor female. And that was from someone I'd reached out for help. Dysphoria for me is an ugly sort of thought. When I look in the mirror and looked at my body and what it used to be, it was a total disconnect. I used to hate it. Some days where I look in the mirror and I just see everything masculine. But there are some days I look in the mirror and I actually see the beautiful person I've become, and I've learned to cherish those days. I am not transgender because I dance, and I don't dance because I'm transgender. I dance because I'm a dancer. And I don't think anyone can truly explain why they're a dancer, you just are. So when I finally had some agency at about 16, 17, I found a dance teacher, and I didn't admit to her, I didn't tell her I was trans, but I did take my first steps in dance, and in that class, my first performance, I'll never forget when we finished our piece and we ran off stage, and I was just in a completely different zone, and one of my other teachers, she just stopped me, and she just said, listen. Just suddenly heard the applause and the cheers, and that feeling is just incredible. I might be the first trans person a lot of people in that audience have seen, and I'm aware that I kind of represent my community like that, and I'm also aware that if you connect emotionally with somebody, that you're less likely to believe the rubbish that we currently see that's been hounding us in the press constantly, because it breaks that narrative. You realise they're a human being. Ballet is an exceptionally gendered art form. If there's a girl that likes jumps, why can't she do that? And if there's a boy that likes expression and port de bras, why shouldn't he be able to do that? Why can't the choreography cater for both? But as artists, we can express a range of emotions and movements. It's not about tricks, it's not about being the best technical dancer, it's about connecting and pouring your heart out on that stage. Very, very lucky I found my current teacher, Lynn. And after about 6 months of dancing in the adult group class, I started doing my private classes with Lynn. So once a week, for an hour in a studio, I got to be the real me. And that literally saved me in terms of my mental health at that point. I just needed that hour a week to be myself, to drop that act of pretending to be a boy and being terrified, and then to be who I was in a dance studio and to let my inner self out and see her in the mirror. Rebecca's actually my stage name because as a trans woman it is dangerous for the world to know my real name, and through my activism as a dancer there are people who would wish me harm. It's sad, but it's the reality of the world we live in still. and my activism is my dancing. Yeah, it's purely through existing in a space, and being who I am is my activism. Someone like me, who's 41, been dancing 7 years now, I'm not going to change the mind of company directors and people in positions of power. What I might be able to do is start a conversation or crack open a door, so that when a young, talented trans or gender non-conforming dancer starts coming through, they might stand a better chance of opening that door themselves. It's not just about trans people. We've got to address ballet's body aesthetic. If you allow girls to be more muscular and more physical, then more trans people will be closer to the aesthetic that is acceptable for that role in ballet. I want to grab every opportunity with both hands and give it everything I've got. And I want to inspire other adults. I'd love to inspire other trans people who maybe thought that dance wasn't for them or wasn't safe for them to try it. I'd love to think that I would change a studio owner or a teacher's mind so that when they get a young trans student, that they don't just turn them away straight away. They understand and accept them and allow them that space. Dance for me is freedom.